Choosing a custom home builder is one of the highest stakes decisions that most people are ever going to make, and no one's actually prepared for it. You're going to spend a significant amount of money, you're going to commit to a very long timeline, and you're going to trust someone to translate your vision into something that will shape your daily life for years. Most people make that decision based on a few meetings, a nice set of photos, and just a general feeling about the person. In this video, I want to walk you through how to think about choosing a custom home builder in a way that's grounded and practical. We'll talk about how the industry actually works, where projects tend to go wrong, what you should be evaluating beyond price and personality, and how to align your expectations before you ever sign a contract. If you understand the system, you're gonna make a much better decision. First, you have to understand that custom building is not just construction. It is a long, complex process that blends design, budgeting, scheduling, communication, and problem solving. You're not hiring someone just to pour concrete and frame walls. You're hiring someone to manage uncertainty over a long period of time and make you feel good about it. Every custom home starts with a plan. On paper, it looks complete. In reality, no set of plans is ever perfect. Trust me. There will always be decisions made during construction. There will be details that need clarification. There will be pricing changes as materials shift and selections evolve, and that's normal. The difference between a good experience and a bad one usually comes down to how these moments are handled. Where most projects break down is not at the big dramatic points. It's actually a small accumulation of small misalignments that erode trust. Expectations around budget weren't clear. Client assumed something was included that wasn't. The builder assumed the client read the contract and understood allowances. Communication slowed down. By the time tension shows up, it's been building quietly for months. So when you're choosing a builder, the first thing to evaluate is not just the finished product, it's the process. Ask them to walk you through how a project actually moves from that initial conversation to that final walkthrough. Not in marketing language, not in sales language, but in hard, specific facts. How do they handle budgeting before construction starts? And how do they come up with it? How do they manage change orders during the process? How often do they communicate and how do they communicate? Who's your point of contact once the project begins and at every phase in that project? If someone cannot clearly explain their process, that is usually a sign they're relying on experience alone rather than a system. While experience matters, without a defined process, results can vary depending on who's involved and how busy they are. The second piece is financial transparency. Custom homes either use a fixed price contract or a cost plus structure, and both can work. It's really preference. What really matters is that you understand the pros and cons of each option. If it's fixed price, how are allowances handled? How are overages handled actually? If it's cost plus, what's the markup and how does it get applied? And what documentation are you going to see along the way? This is not an adversarial conversation, it's a critical conversation. You do need this clarity. As a former CPA, I can tell you that confusion around money is one of the fastest ways to damage trust, along with time. A good builder won't be defensive about explaining this, they welcome the conversation because align expectations at the front makes their job so much easier throughout, and it keeps that trust from start to finish. Another factor that people underestimate is capacity. A builder might have a beautiful portfolio, but you need to understand how many projects they're running at once and how they staff them. And are they staffed appropriately to take on your project or other projects? So who's actually supervising your home on the day-to-day? Is it the owner, a project manager, a superintendent? And how many jobs is that person overseeing simultaneously? There are pros and cons to each alternative. You just have to understand it and ask the builder to explain why they do what they do. This is critical because custom building is detail-oriented. If supervision is stretched too thin, those small issues, they can compound. You won't necessarily see that in marketing, but you'll feel it in delays and communication gaps. But by the time you felt that, it's already too late. It's also important that you talk to past clients, not just the ones that they hand selected for glowing reviews. Ask for a range of projects. Honestly, you should ask for one where it went wrong so you can understand how they handled it. Because let's be honest, construction is not perfect. Things happen, and an honest builder will tell you that. The question isn't whether problems happened, it's whether they were addressed directly and professionally. Now, let's talk about price, because let's be honest, that's where most people focus first. A lower price does not automatically make it better, and a higher price is not automatically safer. In custom building, large price gaps usually mean one of three things: scope differences, allowance assumptions, or margin differences. If one bid is significantly lower, you need to understand why. Are selections assumed at a lower level? Are site costs estimated loosely? Is the house just not built that well? And is there contingency built in? A builder who's unrealistically low is either missing something or they're planning to address it later through change orders where they really make it hurt for you. Sometimes it's just honest oversight. Let's be honest, we're not all perfect. But sometimes it really is a strategy. And either way, you want to know before you commit. On the other hand, a higher price should also come with the same justification. It might reflect stronger supervision, more detailed pre-construction work, better trade relationships, even higher overhead that, let's be honest, supports a smoother process. The key is not picking the middle number automatically, it's understanding what each number on each end of the spectrum represents so that you can make the decision that's best for you. Because for each person, the different answer is right. That compatibility really matters, but it's not in the way that most people think. You don't need to be friends with your builder and invite them to dinner later. But you do need to be mutually aligned and have respect and have similar communication styles. This is a very long process. I've had a client call it a marriage. There's going to be stressful moments. If either side avoids the hard conversation or overreacts under pressure, that becomes extremely costly over time, because that's where you start to waste time and money, and that's when it really hurts on both ends of the spectrum. One thing I always tell clients is this: clarity before construction is the cheapest place to solve your problems. Spend more time in that pre-construction phase. Finalize your selections, push on budgets, ask the uncomfortable questions. A good builder is not just prepared for it, they welcome it. If it feels slow, but it saves you a lot of time and money later, is that really bad? So now, how do you apply all this practically? Start by narrowing your search to builders who regularly build the type of home you want at the price point you're targeting. Not someone who just occasionally does it or they're a friend of a friend. Making sure it's someone whose core business matches your project and the final product that you want. This alignment reduces friction immediately from the start. Then in your initial meetings, listen more than you talk, because a good builder will ask thoughtful questions about how you live, how you make decisions, and what trade-offs you're comfortable with. Because if we're honest, talking about those trade-offs and where you want to spend money and how you want to design your house is where their expertise can help guide you. But if that conversation is mostly about them selling you, that's useful information that should help you in that decision, that maybe it feels more like a sale than a mutual understanding of you're going to be partnered together for a long period of time and you both want to get that right. So make sure you request a detailed proposal and you're taking time to review it. Look at the allowances and how they're presented, look at what's excluded, look at their assumptions. If you don't understand something, ask. The good builder wants you to ask the question so that everyone's aligned. That eliminates so many problems on the back end that nobody wants to go through. So that professional response should be clear and patient. Finally, trust patterns, not moments in time. Anyone can have a great meeting. What you're looking for is consistency in communication, documentation, and follow through. Because at the end of the day, choosing a custom builder is not about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose processes, capacity, and values align with your project. Because that's what this is. It's a project, a long one at that. And it requires discipline from both sides. The fundamentals don't change. Clear expectations, financial transparency, consistent communication, realistic budgeting. These principles matter more than finishes or square footage. If you approach it that way, you dramatically increase the odds that your experience is going to match the investment you're making. If this was helpful, subscribe to the channel. I share practical insights like this for people making significant decisions in business and in life. And if you're in the early stages of planning a custom home, leave a comment about where you are in the process. I'm happy to point you in the right direction or help in any way that I possibly can. Catch you on the next one.